Welcome to 302 Sobriety. For those of you, this is your first time. Welcome. For those that are return visit, thank you very much. And keep sharing, please like and subscribe. Last week I spoke about the beginning of step 4, but I started out with an issue I was having. Well, right after I spoke last week, I went to a meeting, and to my surprise, my higher power puts me in places where I need to be at the time. What I was talking about was that I sometimes make things easy. It looks easy what I'm going through. And yeah, it's easy now. The work is going to come, even though it's been 3 years sober, the work is going to come when I no longer have things hanging over my head. What I mean by that is that I won't have interlock system. I won't have monitoring of urine. And that's where the work and the tools that I've gained during this time that I have to really put it into use. And I brought up the subject that I didn't videotape anything for a little while because I was putting other things in front of my sobriety. For example, I was putting my work, my job, in front of my sobriety. When I started this journey, I didn't start to obtain the stuff that I have lost. I started this journey to know more about myself and how I can make changes to be a better person. And the only way I found it was by going through my meetings, through the fellowship, by doing the steps. All that is good and fine, and I go religiously now. I don't have to go, don't get me wrong, because I'm not required to go to AA. I just keep going because I need to. I need to be reminded of who I am. I'm an addict. Whatever you want to replace, if it's alcohol, drugs, shopping, whatever, an addict is an addict. Whether it's food, whether it's leisure time constantly, and you just want to have fun, and you're living a certain lifestyle, gambling is still an addiction. And the addiction comes from that it alters your body chemistry because you get a high off of it. You get a high off of the endorphins, and you keep chasing it for the rest of your life. For gamblers, what they do is they gamble because they won a big spot. But if you calculate how much they've lost, instead of winning, they lost quite more than just winning. But they keep chasing it because they think they're going to hit the big jackpot. The same thing is with addicts. They're chasing the high, the ability to get what they can at the time, to chase that good feeling. Well, I was one of those. I am one of those. I will be one of those. And for me, when I went to the meeting last week, I had one of my fellow members share when he fell after being clean for a number of years. He said then life happened. He kept going to AA. He got in touch with his spirituality. He was doing fine. And then no more parole, probation, ankle bracelets, no more monitoring. And then he started working and earning money and getting toys like a motorcycle, cars, living the big life. And I shared that with you the last time. I can't do that. I got more out of my sobriety by having less. I could always buy things. That's a purchase. This is a job for me from the inside. I have to be kind to myself. I have to be kind to others. And it's easy to lose that because I have a sick way of thinking. I forget things. It took me years to get to this point. It's got to take me years to get out of it and to understand it. And when I die, I want to die sober. I want to die, I'm going to struggle, just like struggling in everyday life, but I just added something else on, and that was my sobriety. But I'd rather do this because I feel good. I feel better. I feel accomplished. I feel worth. I forgave myself for the mistakes I've done. Forgave myself for the mistakes or the poor decisions and how I treated people in the past. That's what brings me to step 4. And I'm going to continue where I left off before with step 4. And this is from the 12 and 12 on page 44. And I'm going to start by saying alcoholics especially should be able to see that instinct run wild in themselves in the underlying cause of their destructive drinking. We have drunk to drown feelings of fear, frustrations, and depression. We drank to escape the guilt of passions, and then have drank again to make sure passions possible. We have drunk for vain glory, that we might the more enjoy foolish dreams of pomp and power. This perverse soul's sickness is not pleasant to look upon. Instincts on rampage, balk at investigations. The minute we make serious attempts to probe them, we are liable to suffer severe reactions. If temperamentally we are in the depressive side, we are apt to be swamped with guilt and self-loathing. It's hard for me to see without my glasses, so just bear with me with my pronouncing because it's a little dark here. I had the flash on, so this is what I go through. That's why I don't rehearse. We wallow in this messy bog, often getting a mishappen and painful pleasure out of it. As we morbidly pursue this melancholy activity, we may sink to such a point of despair that nothing but oblivion looks possible as a solution. Here, of course, we have lost all perspective and therefore all genuine humility. For this is pride in reverse. This is not a moral inventory at all. It is the very process by which the depressive have so often been led to the bottle and extinction. If, however, our natural disposition is inclined to self-righteousness and grandiosity, our reactions will be just the opposite. We will be offended at AA's suggested inventory. No doubt we shall point with pride to the good lives we thought we led before the bottle cut us down. We shall claim that our serious character defects, if we think we have any at all, have been caused chiefly by excessive drinking. We blame everything on everybody else but except ourselves. We blame it on the liquor. It's not the liquor that got us into trouble, it's our way of thinking. The liquor was just a means to subdue that way of thinking, to get some pleasure. This being so, we think it logically follows that sobriety first, last, and all the time is the only thing we need to work for. We believe that our one-time good characters will be revived the moment we quit alcohol. Not so. If we were pretty nice people all along, except for our drinking, what need is there for a moral inventory now that we are sober? And this is why we have to take a moral inventory of ourselves. We also clutch at another wonderful excuse for avoiding an inventory. Our present anxieties and troubles, we cry, are caused by our behavior of other people who really need a moral inventory. We firmly believe that if only they treat us better, we'll be all right. Therefore, we think our indignation is justified and reasonable, that our resentments are the right kind. We aren't the guilty ones, they are. At this stage of the inventory proceedings, our sponsors come to the rescue. They can do this, for they are carriers of AA, tested experience with step 4. They comfort the melancholy one by showing him that his case is not strange or different, that his character defects are probably not more numerous or worse than those of anyone else in AA. This is the sponsor promptly proves by talking freely and easily and without exhibitionism about his own defects, past and present. This calm yet realistic stock taking is immensely reassuring. The sponsor probably points out that the newcomer has some assets which can be noted along with his liabilities. When I speak to newcomers, this is what I do. I share what I've gone through, and I'm no different than the newcomer or the person that's been sober for 40, 50 years. The sponsor probably points out that the newcomer has some assets which can be noted along with his liabilities. This tends to clear away morbidity and encourage balance. As soon as he begins to be more objective, the newcomer can fearlessly, rather than fearfully, look at his own defects. The sponsor of those who feel that they need no inventory are confronted with quite another problem. This is because people who are driven by pride or self unconsciously blind themselves to their liabilities. These newcomers scarcely need comforting. The problem is to help them discover a chink in the walls of their ego has built, through which the light of reason can shine. First off, they can be told that the majority of AA members have suffered severely from self-justification during their drinking days. For most of us, self-justification was just maker of excuses. Excuses, of course, for drinking and for all kinds of crazy and damaging conduct. We have made the invention of alibis a fine art. We had to drink because times were hard or times were good. We had to drink because at home we were smothered with love or got none at all. We had to drink because at work we were great successes or dismal failures. We had to drink because our nation had won a war or lost a peace. And so it went to infinity. At thought, conditions drove us to drink. And when we tried to correct these conditions and found that we couldn't to our entire satisfaction, our drinking went out of hand and we became alcoholics. It never occurred to us that we needed to change ourselves to meet conditions, whatever they were. Conditions don't have to change for us. We have to change because of the conditions. We have to adapt. We have to be like chameleons. But in AA, we slowly learned that sometimes some things had to be done about our vengeful resentment, self-pity, and unwarranted pride. We had to see that every time we played the big shot, we turned people against us. We had to see that when we harbored grudges and planned revenges for such defeats, we were really beating ourselves up with the club of anger we had intended to use on others. We learned that if we were seriously disturbed, our first need was to quiet that disturbance regardless of who or what we thought caused it. To see how erratic emotions victimize us often took a long time. We could perceive them quickly in others, but only slowly in ourselves. First of all, we had to admit that we had many of these defects, even though such disclosures were painful and humiliating. Where other people were concerned, we had to drop the word blame from our speech and thought. This required great willingness even to begin. But once over the first 2 or 3 hurdles, the course ahead began to look easier. For we had started to get perspectives on ourselves, which is another way of saying that we were gaining in humility. Of course, the depressive and the power driver are personality extremes, types with which AA and the whole world abound. Often these personalities are just as sharply defined as the examples given. By just as often, some of us will fit more or less into both classifications. Human beings are never quite alike. So each of us, when making an inventory, we need to determine what his individual character defects are. Having found the shoes that fit, he ought to step into them and walk with new confidence that he is at last on the right track. That's how I felt. I didn't realize that it was me. It was like they say you add wood to the fire. If somebody came up to me, either I abused them, took advantage of them, whatever it was, I got angry for no reason. I could point out, make you belittle you, use women just for an object, nothing about emotions, nothing that I'm hurting their own psyche. But at the same time, I was hurting mine because I was feeding into the negativity that I was creating in my mind. Now let's ponder the little for a list of more glaring personality defects all of us have in varying degrees. To those having religious training, such a list would set serious violations of moral principles. Some others would think of this list as defects of character. Still others will call it an index of maladjustment. Some will become quite annoyed if there is talk about immorality, let alone sin. But all those are the least reasonable will agree upon one point, that there is plenty wrong with us alcoholics, about which plenty will have to be done if we are to expect sobriety, progress, and a real ability to cope with life. Just going to read a little more, and then I'll talk a little more about it. And I would hope you would comment and share your thoughts with these. A lot of people say this brainwashes you. No, it doesn't brainwash you. It's just making you think a different way because your way wasn't getting you to the right place. You know you have a problem. Nobody brainwashed you to tell you you had a problem. You know you needed some help. You just didn't know how to do it. And then all of a sudden your ego, like my ego, got in the way, and nobody's going to tell me what to do because I'm a man. I got to do what I have to do for myself. I'm not supposed to complain. But you know something? If you ask for help when you need help, that means you're a stronger person because you know you want to do better. To avoid falling into confusion over the names, these defects should be called. Let's take a universally recognized list of major human feelings. The 7 deadly sins of pride: greed, lust, anger, gluttony, envy, and sloth. It is not by accident that pride heads the procession. For pride, leading to self-justification and always spurred by concussions or in concussion fears, is the basic breeder of most human difficulties, the chief block to true progress. Yeah, pride, it's like the ego, my ego. I'm right, you're not. get over it, do things as I say, not as I do. That type of mentality is just out of this world. Everybody's an individual. Everybody has their own point, their own road, their own way to handle things. And for me, as an alcoholic, I have to come to accept who you are for who you are. Not try to change you. I can't change you. Only you know what you need to change. And if you don't care about changing it, that's on you. That's not on me. I stay away from that negativity. I stay away from what gets me angry. You know why? Because when I get angry at someone doing something, it reminds me of myself. I'm looking right at in the mirror. I'm looking at someone that acted like me, that didn't care about anybody, that didn't care about any human being. Well, all these feelings generate fear, a soul sickness in its own right. Then fear, in turn, generates more character defects. Unreasonable fear that our instincts will not satisfy drives us to covet the possessions of others, to lust for sex and power, to become angry when our instinctive demands are threatened, to be envious when the ambitions of others seem to be realized while ours are not. We eat, drink, and grab for more of everything that we need, fearing that we shall never have enough. That's what I was doing. The more I got, the more I bought, the more I wanted and got. If you had something, I wanted it, I take it. I thought that made me happy. That's not what made me happy. I realized by losing everything and starting over and appreciating what I had, and that was my way in my heart. I'm a good person. Misdirected good person. Someone that has to work at it all the time. Some people it comes naturally. Some people don't drink. Some people say, hey, I don't have a problem. I don't drink. But they still have character defects. Whether they choose to realize it or not, that's them. Our job, my job, is to do for myself. We loaf and procrastinate, or at best, work grudgingly and under half steam. These fears are the termites that ceaselessly devour the foundation of whatever sort of life we try to build. So when AA suggests a fearless moral inventory, it must seem to every newcomer that more is being asked of him that he can do. Both his pride, his fear beat him back every time he tries to look within himself. Pride says, you need not pass this way. Fear says, you dare not look. But the testimony of AA who have really tried a moral inventory is the pride and fear of this sort turn out to be the boogeymen, nothing else. Once we have complete willingness to take inventory, we exert ourselves to do the job thoroughly. A wonderful light falls upon this foggy scene. As we persist, a brand new kind of confidence is born, and the sense of relief is finally facing indescribable. These are the first fruits of step 4. I'm going to end with that and I'll continue it next week. This 12 and 12 was from my uncle after he had 23 years sobriety. And I keep this close to my heart. If he did it and he's part of my family, I could do it too. So I forgave myself. Because of this moral inventory, I learned to forgive myself. I learned to say, hey, you know something? I made poor decisions in life. Michael, get over it. You got to have a new start. You don't have to be that way. You don't have to be the way you were. You could be a new person. I have that talk with myself all the time. When I get up in the morning, I psych myself up. It's like, Okay, another day. Come on, buddy, let's get up. Let's do this. I have to have a routine. If I break that morning routine, like getting up on time, not putting the snooze button, not dragging my butt, not complaining about that I have to get up again and go to work, because that's feeding my sickness, my mental illness. Because if I keep doing that over and over and over, slowly but surely I will revert back to complaining, bitching to get something better feeling in me. The only thing I know is go drink, go get high, try to do something different, lifestyle, the excitement. I can't do that. I'm real happy. I'm here in my house. I got out of work Friday. I stayed at home creating stuff. I made a coffee table out of a fish tank so my cats could get in it. You think I'm joking around, but I'm not. I'll show it to you at the end of the video. But for me, that's my release. I go out for a drive if I'm by myself. If my daughter's not around, my son's not around, I'm not with some of my friends, or I'm not in a meeting or looking at some videos to help strengthen myself, or doing my yoga or meditation, I'm lost. Because now I've been used to this. I've been used to this system. I start early in the morning, the same thing, do my yoga, do my meditation. For a little while, get dressed. I wake up 2 hours early so I can prepare myself for the day. Then I walk out the door and let's go, buddy. Let's do it. We're going to do it again. Another day. Let's go. And by the time I show up at work, it's all over with. My mind is already geared to go to work, to do what I need to do, to help people. Because that's what I do. I try to give a piece of myself to everybody that I meet. I take inventory at the end of the night to see what I need to work, because my brain works that if I don't think about it when I go to sleep, if I think about it when I go to sleep, I'll wake up with an answer when I wake up. And how to change it, because it stays in my mind. So, I try to catch it. Sometimes I don't catch it as fast as I want to, but it gets there. It gets there. It takes time, but it gets there. I try to be something better. Well, it's been about 27 minutes that I've been speaking to you guys, and what I do is, spend time and here with my cats and my fish and everything, and I'm going to show you around so you can see some of the stuff that I do. This is I have my cat stuff out there for them, and I also have this table that I made. This table is a tank, a fish tank. I made a top, turned it to the side, and the opening is on this side right here. And the cat goes inside. He has a good time. He could see around. He's part of the family. I love animals. I love taking care of. I do meditation. I have my way. This is my domain. This is where I want my peace. I have my fish tanks. And hopefully you can see it's just something to keep me at peace. Something to keep me at peace all the time. I live simple. I do my yoga. And this is the place that I do my yoga, right in the living room. I live here by myself. Sometimes I have friends coming over. We have mini meetings. But you know something? I would not trade this for anything. People accept me for who I am. I'm kind. I'm there for them. And I forgave myself a long time ago. My spirituality helped me do that. My belief in something higher than myself. I thought I was a big guy. No. I said it before. I cannot stop a wave from the ocean, but I could surf it. And that's what I'm doing, taking that ride. Letting go, accepting, trying to drop that ego of mine. Things don't have to go my way. There's other ways of doing things. There's other ways of hammering a nail. You don't have to hit it with a hammer. You know, you could hit it with a nail gun. You got a nail gun you could use. Some people just drive it in. I mean, there's ways of doing things. You just have to realize that your way is not the only way. Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for what you've done in the past. And start anew. Start something different. Start something that you will appreciate in life. And with that, thank you for visiting 302 Sobriety. Please share, like, comment. Stay sober one day at a time, because I'm still strong and sober. No matter what, I am going to fight. I do not give up easy in life. I am a fighter. And this is the fight of my life. Because if I don't do it, I will die. Or I will be in jail. Or something that I don't want. So again, peace out, stay sober, one day at a time. Thank you for listening.